All right, let's just jump right in. Look, we've all got opinions, right? But turning those feelings about a restaurant or a new product into feedback that someone can actually use, now that's the tricky part. So today we're going to break down exactly how to do that, how to express your impressions in a way that's super clear and, most importantly, constructive.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? You're staring at that blinking cursor in a review box, you just had a meal or stayed at a hotel or bought some new gadget, and you know how you feel about it, but what do you even write? Finding the right words can be surprisingly tough. Well, that's exactly what we're tackling today.
So, here's the plan. First, we'll figure out what an impression even is. Then, we'll get into the actual words to use for both good and bad feedback. After that, I've got a super simple 4-step blueprint for you. And finally, we'll talk about why this all matters so much. Simple as that.
All right, first things first. We have to start with the foundation. Before we can even think about giving good feedback, we got to be on the same page about what an impression really is.
Okay, so what is it? An impression is basically just that feeling, That idea you have about a place, a person, or something you've experienced. It's not a dry list of facts. It's your personal take. And that feeling, that's the absolute core of any feedback you're ever going to give, good or bad.
Okay, now for the fun part. Let's start building our toolkit, and we'll begin with the language of positive feedback. Because when something is awesome, you want your words to show it, right? Just saying it was good is, well, it's fine, but it's kind of weak. It doesn't really tell anyone anything. So let's look at some way more powerful options.
Just look at some of these words. They instantly make your feedback better. Instead of just a good movie, how about a memorable one? Instead of a nice dinner, what about a delightful one? See the difference? These adjectives add some real punch and make it super clear what you actually mean.
And we can level this up even more by using full phrases. Think about it. If you start a sentence with, "What really stood out for me was," your brain automatically has to fill in a specific detail. You can't just stop there. And that is the secret sauce. That's what turns a vague opinion into a genuinely helpful piece of feedback.
All right, let's flip to the other side of the coin, negative feedback. And, this is where it gets a little tricky. The goal here is to be honest, for sure, but you also want to be constructive, not just mean.
So, here are some words for when things just don't go right. Words like disappointing or unprofessional are so much better than just bad. Why? Because they're specific. Disappointing says it didn't meet your expectations. Unprofessional points to a problem with behavior. It's much clearer.
And these phrases? Oh, these are your secret weapon for giving criticism that actually helps. My favorite is, "It did not live up to my expectations." It's just perfect. It's not an attack, it's a calm statement that says, hey, I expected this and I got that. That's so much more useful to a business than someone just venting their anger.
But this is the big one, isn't it? How do you say something negative without sounding like a total jerk? There's a really fine line between being direct and just being harsh. So, how do we stay on the right side of that line?
Okay, check this out. It's a perfect example. On one side, you have, "The hotel was terrible." I mean, that's just harsh, and it doesn't really help. But on the other side, "I was disappointed with the hotel." See, that's about your feeling. It's your experience. And saying, "The service was unprofessional" gives a reason. It's polite, but it's also firm. That's the sweet spot.
Okay, so we've got the words, we've got the phrases, now we need to put it all together. Let's talk structure. The good news is you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time you write a review. There's a super simple blueprint that just works. And here it is, the 4-step formula. It's so simple. Introduction, positives, negatives, conclusion. That's it. It's logical, it's balanced, and it makes sure your review makes perfect sense to whoever's reading it. When you start with context and then cover both the good and the bad, your whole review just feels more fair and trustworthy.
Step 1 is easy. Just set the scene. A quick sentence that says who you were with, where you were, and when you were there. This little bit of context makes everything you're about to say feel so much more real and credible.
All right, step 2, talk about the good stuff. And this is important. Try to do this even if you had a bad experience overall. Finding something positive to mention shows you're being fair, not just complaining. Plus, it actually makes your criticism later on seem more valid. And again, get specific, not just nice staff, but friendly and attentive.
Okay, now for step 3, the negatives. See how this example uses that polite but firm phrase, "I was quite disappointed"? And then, boom, right into the specifics. Not "the food was bad," but "the soup was cold and the chicken was undercooked." Those are facts.
That is feedback someone can actually do something about. It's not just a vague complaint. And finally, step 4, the wrap-up. Give your overall summary and a clear recommendation. This is where you give your final verdict. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Something like, I'd recommend it for drinks, but maybe not for a full meal is incredibly helpful. It's nuanced and it gives people a really clear idea of what to expect.
So, we've covered the what and the how. We have the words, we have the structure. But let's zoom out for a second and talk about the why. Why does any of this actually matter? Because, and this is the key takeaway, this is about so much more than just writing restaurant reviews online. Honestly, the ability to give balanced, specific, and polite feedback is a communication superpower. Seriously. You'll use this at work during performance reviews, you'll use it in your relationships, you'll use it anytime you need to explain your experience to someone else in a way that actually works.
So look, if you take away just one thing today, let it be this. Your feedback becomes incredibly powerful when it's specific, balanced, polite, and structured. That's the magic formula. It's not just for reviews, it's for communicating any impression you have in a way that actually helps people, instead of just hurting their feelings.
So I'll leave you with a question. The next time you're about to give some feedback, you've got the toolkit. You know how to make it count. The real question is, what kind of impression will you leave?